The Dallas Cowboys, who would have thought last week when we were talking with Ray Gorvey that in that hyped matchup, another Cowboys Packers rivalry matchup at AT&T Stadium, the stadium where the Packers honestly own the Dallas Cowboys, that we would end up in a shootout tie? What are we doing? A tie? Your thoughts on that game?
Tie. A tie. Well, I mean, right, real quick, I gotta agree with Michael Irvin. I mean, that is ups it is insane that the Cowboys had 1 second left on that final play. It did not feel like that was 6 second play. It felt like it was a lot longer than 6 seconds. That pass was in the air for at least a few seconds. It felt like at least. I mean, I completely agree with Michael Irvin on that. He had the funniest explanation on first day. I want to talk to that Joker who was running the clock in Dallas last night. But I mean, it's incredible that the Cowboys were even in that position. I think that there was, um, I was watching with Raymond Gorvey and a couple of other Packers fans, which made this a incredible watch, to be honest. None of us were satisfied at the end of the game. None of us knew how to feel. But, I think that a lot of things with the Dallas Cowboys is that they tend to beat themselves. And in this circumstance, it felt like the Packers kind of started to beat themselves. You look at that play with Dak Prescott where he was getting pressured, got out of it, escaped the pocket, and threw that just incredible dime to Jalen Tolbert that brought them to about the 4 yard line in overtime. Of course, they didn't convert, but you're looking at that play, and that play, the DB for the Packers just completely gave up on the play. He just stopped and started watching in the end zone. And, you know, that it was an incredible play, but the Packers kind of screwed themselves up at certain points of the game. That's just one example. But at the same time, the Cowboys did screw themselves over too. You look at LaFay, or I'm sorry,
Maris
the
LaFleur?
yeah, the linebacker with the horrible late hit
Silly.
on the
Silly.
third down right before the 2 minute warning in the fourth quarter. That was just, yeah, like you said, it was just extremely silly. It felt like it was, I mean, I don't know what's going through the head. You obviously had the momentum, but it was such an abomination of a late hit that you had to have known what you were doing before you laid in that shoulder to lay that guy down. But I mean, props to the team, man. Props to the offense, obviously, after scoring 14 points to Chicago the week before, going against 40 against the Green Bay Packers, limiting Micah Parsons to one Mickey Mouse sack. I mean, it's incredible. They played an incredible game, especially with Tyler Booker being out. Um, and so the offense is great. The defense, of course, I'll let you go on your defense rant because I know you got it. I know you got a way better defensive rant than I do.
Yeah.
Um, because the third down conversion rate for the Packers is what kept them in the game. It's what made this a game. They had too many opportunities to continue their drives, and that's just unacceptable. So I'll let that transition into you.
Yeah, you talked about that offense for the Cowboys, which was awesome. But yeah, that Mickey Mouse sack, I need that stat corrected. I can't believe the NFL has not changed that.
Immediately.
I did not
Roger,
know that was going to be a sack. I couldn't believe that. But
Mr.
it ended
Burnett.
up saving the game in a way for Green Bay. So props to Micah Parsons in a way, because that could have been, a potential touchdown leading or game-winning touchdown for Dak Prescott going into the end zone, the left side. But yeah, this Cowboys defense, man. Cowboys offense confirmed first in the game as far as total yards a game in the NFL. The defense last in the league. My goodness, if this team just had a mid defense, if they just had a defense that was ranked 15th, 16th, 17th, what would be of this team by now? You look at that third down defense as you were talking about, 10 of 14 the Packers were on third down.
Jeez, man.
I mean, that usually loses games. This team is very fortunate that Dak Prescott and George Pickens exist because they were bailing this team out. They're fortunate that Jalen Tolbert made that crazy catch way downfield that I
Hmm.
argued that Dak Prescott should have gotten a lot more praise on by the whole league for that throw. But it's just
Unbelievable.
unbelievable to me, this defense. Kyer Elam, Trayvon Diggs, what are we doing? Deron Bland getting feasted on by Romeo Doubs. you know, these corners are just they're food. They're food by every single receiving core. You saw it against Chicago. You see it again against Green Bay. I don't know what is going on. They played a little bit better in the fourth quarter in overtime. And I don't know what it was about LaFleur and the Packers in that last quarter in OT, but it felt like they got a little bit conservative. And they kind of were going playing into the hands of Matt Eberflus in this defense. I felt like they could have taken more shots downfield like they did in the first half because we didn't see the Cowboys stop it a lot, and we didn't see them stop it against New York and Chicago. Yeah, I think the Cowboys are very fortunate on defense, and they still had 40 dropped on them.
No, I mean, and to follow on that to that point of the Packers being conservative, I'm gonna go off and unleash my opinion that the Cowboys should have gone for it on fourth and goal. I think that
I don't hate that.
I get that, you are getting the guaranteed points. Brendan Aubrey's gonna make that field goal. You got the 3 points. Now you're putting, but the thing is that you're putting it into your defense's hands to save the game, to get a stop, no matter what. Because, I mean, field goal ties the game, touchdown wins it for the Packers now in overtime. And you are putting it in the hands of the defense that is, once again, what you said, 10 for 14 on third down conversions that day. Also, one of the worst defense in the league with yards allowed, ranked last in the league, like you said. And you're putting it into their hands against Green Bay's offense. I think the Cowboys should have gone for it. If they didn't get it, well, guess what? You had game over. But even maybe it's not even game over. You never know. Jordan Love can easily make a mistake, and you were at the 4 yard line. They had to go at least 50 or 60 yards to get into decent range for field goal. Definitely at least 60 yards, which it could have been potentially. The Cowboys defense could potentially have stepped up, but I think you take that chance there, especially for a first year coach with Brian Schottenheimer and the circumstances regarding this game, especially since we own their first round pick. You got to take the risk and get that W, I think.
Honestly, like when people started saying that, I didn't understand it at first. I knew what they meant, obviously, but I'm just saying I thought that you would take the points, but when you put it like that, I mean, I don't know how you disagree because how do you put that in the hands of your defense, who you saw in the fourth quarter could not get the stop? They
Hmm.
couldn't get a stop multiple times on third down. You saw the silly penalty by Marist, but you also saw in that drive that led to the McManus tying field goal. They had a few third and fourth goal opportunities that they converted, the Packers did.
Yep.
And you had opportunities right there, and that showed that the defense cannot get a stop when you need them to. So for Brian Schottenheimer, I am a little disappointed that now in the week that they decided not to go for a fourth and goal because he saw it again, like right after they took the lead up that Brandon Aubrey field goal. Aubrey does a great job of making sure the ball doesn't get or gets in the landing zone, forcing the return man to have to move and not get to the 30-yard line, which he would be if he you know just bounced into the end zone.
Hmm.
But you have good starting field position for the defense, have them kind of pinned near the 20, and you still can't stop them.
Yep.
You had a third down, you had a fourth down, you still couldn't get it done. They convert off a play up the middle, and it's like it's just
And who knows?
heartbreaking.
Like, yeah, you have the fourth. If you put them down on the four, if you do fail that, fourth and goal conversion, if you miss that, or if you mess that up, they're on the 4 yard line. I mean, that could be a completely different ball game than starting on the 20 yard line like they did. I understand that that was already good field position enough being on the 20 for the defense to get a stop, but maybe the 4 yard line, and also, I mean, to add on to that as well, the offense was on fire, man. Yeah, I mean, you gotta just go for it. I think that that was, I just think that again, you know, maybe just because he hasn't had any, maybe it's because Schottenheimer, again, first season, only 4 games in, he's not on any hot seat whatsoever. People are genuinely enjoying him as a coach, that he doesn't want to take those risks and potentially harm his reputation, as a coach, and potentially people look back on this game and be like, this is a bad decision by Brian Schottenheimer. But I just really, really think that with how the game was flowing, that was a situation that the Cowboys should have gone for it and taken the risk.
Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with that. I mean, it's so weird seeing the Cowboys with a tie because I can't recall the last time they had a tie beforehand. Do you remember this? This would be a good trivia. I feel like I should have known this.
No, I feel like it's. Did it happen? Is this the first tie for Dak? I feel like we've had a tie before with Dak, but I can't put a year on it. I don't think that we have actually.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
this
been a while
Cowboy.
for sure.
It is surprising that the NFL has not moved to maybe like college rules, like after the first OT, maybe like a little 2-point conversion off, to end the game. Because these guys are pros. I know they play a grueling game for a living, but I'm sure a lot of these guys don't want ties. I feel like we should ask a lot more players about their opinions on this because this was a game that was heading off to classic ranks,
It
classic
was.
ranks. And I don't know if it'll be remembered the same because it ends in a draw essentially. But I gotta agree with your initial point, man. What are we doing with the clock operator? What are we doing? You had one job, one job. You work for AT&T Stadium. Let that clock wind down.
Yeah, no, no, no. I got two things. First of all, by the way, it was a scoregami. Gotta always represent the scoregamis in NFL history, and
Absolutely.
what a legendary scoregami 40-40 tie. Second of all, you talked about the media talking about the ties. I mean, who was in the locker room or the press conference asking about the ties? Because those were horrible
The
questions.
same
I mean, that is
question.
on par with Coach Sarkisian's response when one of our colleagues asked him if Arch Manning was hurt, and he said, "I don't look at you guys when you guys are using the bathroom." Like, what the hell does that mean? This guy on the Dallas sports media, somebody asked Dak, somebody asked Jerry Jones, if a tie feels like kissing your sister, is that right? Is that what he
Oh
was
my
asking?
Lord. He's trying,
My
yep.
God.
It's a common saying about how a tie is in sports. And, he tried it multiple times. I think it was the same guy, but he was trying to get that sound bite.
Find that
And
guy, dude. That
that
is
was
an
hilarious.
incredible. That sounds like rage bait. I don't even know what that is. Just an incredible question. I would never have the cojones to ask a question like
Yeah,
that.
especially at Jerry Jones. The response was it's pretty funny troll by the old man,
Yeah, yeah,
Jera.
he had a good response. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
Still hate
Well,
you,
look,
Jerry.
yeah, the Cowboys are now 1-2-1 and looking ahead to the New York Jets, who they play next at MetLife. Justin Fields, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson. They looked much better against Miami on Monday Night Football. I'll absolutely say that. But it's going to come down to this defense for sure. What do you think?
I mean, Justin Fields had a game, and I think that it is Justin Fields has the perfect archetype of a quarterback to kind of damage this Cowboys defense. Um, I mean, his versatility. I mean, he had a couple good thrown balls against Miami. Garrett Wilson is obviously a very dangerous wide receiver. Shout out from since he's from Austin, Texas, and um, Brees Hall, I mean, running backs, we're giving up so many yards, and it's not just the run game like we're used to. It is the passing game, but the run game is still killing the Dallas Cowboys. DeAndre Swift with Chicago and Josh Jacobs with Green Bay had some really good average per rush attempts against Dallas. I expect Brees Hall to do the same. He's still very explosive, no matter what the injuries that he's had these last few years. He's still a very explosive back. And Justin Fields, if you're not containing him, man, that guy can basically be a running back as well. And that is danger, danger, danger for this defense for sure. And if Diggs and the other cornerbacks and these defensive backs, and I don't know if Malik Hooker is going to be good for this game, but they're going to have to learn how to tackle because Brees Hall is an amazing player with contact. And Of course, they just got to learn how to tackle because Justin Fields is going to be super elusive against them when he runs out of the pocket.
It's funny because it's basically the same week as last year in the Mike McCarthy era that the Cowboys get to go against Justin Fields. This time last year, October 6th, actually, they
You're
played the
right.
Pittsburgh Steelers, and Justin Fields was the starter while Russell Wilson was still a little bit banged up. He went 15 for 27, 131 yards, 2 touchdowns. It ended up being a defensive game, and we know how that ended with Dak finding Jalen Tolbert in the front left pylon for the win, but Justin Fields didn't play too bad in that game. There were some third downs they just couldn't convert, but he didn't play terribly bad. But when I look at this Cowboys offense, I think that I'm gaining more confidence for sure, especially after last week. I was worried how this offense will look with CeeDee Lamb out after the Chicago injury, but George Pickens is looking just fine. What do you think about what he did this past week?
I mean, it's incredible. I think that George Pickens, I thought, that maybe it was going to take a few weeks for him to get adjusted, especially as a wide receiver too. He's been kind of known to be a wide receiver one these last few years in Pittsburgh, and think that just having this, just having the adjustment of playing with CeeDee Lamb. Now, of course, CeeDee Lamb being hurt and him going back to his original type role, I think that really helped him. Dak looks like he has incredible chemistry with him. Some of those catches, of course, that one deep ball to the left side of the sideline. I can't remember what part of the game it was, but his catch with the safety kind of looming, going over and hitting him right after the catch, and him holding on, keeping those 2 feet in bounds. Just one of the best catches I've ever seen from a wide receiver, I think. It was really good. And but you kind of mentioned this before. This is a little bit dangerous to a point because he's playing too good, and this is a contract year for him. And he does have the same agent as Mr. Parsons.
And that's what I was worried about as soon as CD went down. This team might be cooked if he starts cooking. 8 catches, 134 yards, 2 touchdowns against the Packers. I did not expect that, especially with the hype that the Packers defense has had, being young, being physical. They're supposed to be next up as one of the best defenses in the NFL, and they looked a little bit sorry last week. I'm not gonna lie to you. They looked a
Yeah.
little bit sorry.
You got to give some props to Schottenheimer though with his
For
offensive
sure.
scheme. Of course, the defense, cornerbacks, people matched up against George Pickens. They took advantage of that. I believe they had an injury. They put Valentine in. Oh my goodness. Add in the play man, the cover, George Pickens, and they took advantage of that. They were
Oh
playing
man.
behind, they were playing 10 yards back on Pickens. They were doing a lot of quick throws in and outs, the Pickens, and props to Schottenheimer for, realizing that and exploiting that. And, hey, I don't know how many times that Pickens is going to be playing against a cornerback like Valentine. He did not look too good. Um, but you got, of course, he's going to go against probably Sauce Gardner the next week in New York. And so, who knows if that's going to be, maybe a more difficult game for George Pickens. I would assume so. So.
Well, we're looking at some prop bets now. The Cowboys are 2.5 point favorites. I think that's a very interesting spread. Um, let me look at the over under really quick. I didn't really check that. I thought I had that written down. But as far as 2.5, what do you think about that? Did the Dallas Cowboys cover that, or will they go against?
You know, I really think that this is going to be another close game. Um, they're not that performance on the road against Chicago does worry me that maybe this is a year that they might struggle a little bit on the road, especially against competitive teams. I know that New York is far from a competitive team really, for playoff wise, but I am a little worried that their away performance might drop a little bit compared to their home performances, like they have been recently in the last few years. Um, so I'm gonna go with under on this. I'm gonna go with they either win on a game-winning field goal, or it's another tie. I guess I do want to have confidence that they'll win, but I don't know. I just don't think that it will be a convincing win, in my opinion.
Sure enough. I actually think they'll cover this. I think they can win by a field goal, win by 3 points. Brennan Aubrey in the clutch. The over under is set at 47.5. Do you think that they go over or under that as a total for both teams?
Yeah, I'll go over. I mean, the only game that I think that they haven't gone over in Philadelphia and Chicago, which are both away games. But Philadelphia is kind of a outlier with the rain delay that they had. Um, you know, do the Jets score more than 30 points? Because I do think that the Cowboys get at least, you know, I don't know. It's wild to me that Philadelphia scored the least amount of points out of any team against the Cowboys so far. Again, an
Hmm.
outlier game. I'm going to go slightly under because I don't think that the Jets score over 30 points, but I'm still worried that the offense might drop a little bit this game. So I'm going to go slightly under here.
That's very fair. I might go under as well. I do think the defense will be the reason why it appears closer to heading towards over, but I think under will be um, ending up at 47.5. How about Javonte Williams? He's set for 65.5 rushing yards. He's averaged 78 rushing yards this season so far. Very nice surprise for this Cowboys rush attack. The Jets have the 25th ranked run defense in the NFL. Does he go over 65 and a half or under?
I think he goes over. I mean, it's I feel like this one's a pretty easy one in my opinion. I don't know what the circumstance with Miles Sanders is regarding this game. Javonte Williams, I'm going to go over 65 and a half.
Yeah, I'll go over with that too. I think he can have a really solid game. I think he'll get back scoring touchdowns even more efficiently than the pass. I'll go over for Javonte Williams. About Jake Ferguson, the number one tight end in fantasy right now, also had a great game against Green Bay, another touchdown, 42 and a half receiving yards. Where do you have that?
Yeah, he's kind of lucky. I would assume that Tucker Kraft would probably still be number one if they didn't call back his touchdown. I'm gonna go over on this one as well. I think that Jake Ferguson's gonna be the primary target this game. Dak loves his tight ends, and I think that last game kind of reinforces that Jake Ferguson is still a good tight end, and I think he carries that on to this week.
Yeah, I mean, they're having to realize, man, that guys are going to have to step up with the loss of CeeDee Lamb and this injury. Cavante Turpin has done a really good job, I think. He's starting to figure it out. Not really him figuring it out, but the coaches and the scheme is allowing him to finally flourish. I thought that McCarthy could have had him much better in the system, but Jake Ferguson is for sure going to have to step up as well. I think this is an easy over for sure. They're going to realize they're going to have to need him a little bit more against this Jets defense. They can get at least 50 receiving yards. But
I don't know
George
if you
Pickens,
noticed, by the way, though, to Turpin and Tolbert, almost every third down
yeah,
passes to them.
it's
It's
unreal.
incredible.
It's
Yeah,
unreal. We talked about this in the past. I mean, what is this? I like that catch though by Tolbert though. That was
yeah,
clutch.
obviously.
George Pickens, 70 and a half receiving yards.
I want to kind of, I, I'm gonna go under here. I'll say he gets around 50 to 60 yards, but he gets a touchdown in this game. I think that they're gonna give him more situational looks again. You know, the Jets defensive backs are a little bit more skilled, I think, than the circumstance that the Packers were in last week, on Sunday night. So I think it's gonna be harder to find him this game. I'm gonna go 50, 60 yards, still gets a touchdown though.
I think the ground game is going to feast. So with that in mind, I think Pickens will go a little bit under. He'll have a nice few plays, but being on Sauce Gardner is not easy. Even though I don't think Garner has had the best of seasons for being a former All-Pro, I think he'll do a good job against George Pickens. I think Pickens he'll hold him to at least, a little bit under, maybe 70, have him like 60 yards or something. But for Dak, I think this is pretty easy, honestly. Maybe it's not, but 239 and a half pass yards, first in the league in passing yards in the NFL.
Well, you say it's easy. I'm actually thinking it's more complicated than what the stats show. I'm going to go under. He hasn't gone over 239 yards on an away game so far this year. And if he doesn't prove, if he can't prove it yet, I'm going to say that he goes under again.
Yeah, I mean, this Jets offense, or Jets defense rather, is 14th, I believe, in pass yards against in the air. So, I mean, they're middle of the pack. Nothing crazy that they give up, but they're not exactly terrible. But they're not elite either. I think Dak can have a solid game. I think this is a very fair number to put him at 239 and a half. I think he can go over this for sure. Do you have a quick score prediction before we move on to a little quick segment?
Let's go with I'm gonna go 24-23 Dallas Cowboys, Brendan Aubrey, game winning 56-yard field goal.
I'll go with another Brandon Aubrey game winner. I'll go with 24-21. I said they'd win by three. I'll go 24-21 at MetLife
Still my
Stadium.
answer. It's cool. Now watch out on MetLife, man. Ooh.